So, the start of GB3 Athletics in 2023.
Yes.
We started GB3 Athletics 2013. Started with a blog post on WordPress called combatwatt.com in 2011. It was interesting. At that time period, not very many companies were putting programming out. And that's all it was. It was a specific type of programming for the tactical professional. Tactical professional we know who puts their life on the line, both physically and mentally, and their job requires them to do extraordinary things in very high stress environments. Coming from deployment, multiple deployments where a lot of it was very kinetic, I learned that not just do you have to be physically fit, but you also have to be psychologically fit. After that deployment, I got to go be an instructor at the schoolhouse, where I got to train the next generation warfighters that are still in the Marine Corps today. And during that time and moment, that was another piece where it was like a breacher charge into being like, aha, they need more than just the physicality. They need the psychological piece to mentally fortify them to handle whatever was going to come their way. And I guess the way that I used to train these students or studs or ropers, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, they're humans. Mm-hmm. And like that was a big piece that I realized. At the same time, I ended up realizing that they needed to go ahead and learn how to operate in an environment that still allowed them to meet operational requirements and readiness. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? They needed to make sure that they were recovering well after patrols and nighttime missions, daytime missions. They needed to go ahead and take care of themselves from not utilizing so much substances, mm-hmm. i.e. tobacco, nicotine, alcohol, you name it. That's just, it's normal in the tactical professional world. During my time and moment being an instructor at the schoolhouse, I was able to kind of start pinpointing that and teaching these to these students. That's when GB3 Athletics started coming back around, or came around, was evolved into what it is today, of an individualization, a way to train the human, to have them reach extraordinary feats, their true human potential, whatever you want to name it. Like that's just what it was. During that time and moment, I also started getting deeper into the strength conditioning world, started working with other athletes outside of that. Same thing. What I started noticing, it wasn't the physicality was the hard part, it was the psychological side of the house. So me being the person I am and the curious George that I am, I decided to go ahead and pursue sports psychology. And what that did for me was it allowed me to really understand how to triangulate multiple aspects of the human being, mm-hmm. so that they can perform in whatever endeavor they needed to. GB3 Athletics at that time was just an online blog. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was coaching some athletes individually. Was it very individualized? I wouldn't say it was completely, due to the fact that I was learning. Mm-hmm. I was still applying principles that I was reading out of books, learning from other coaches, sitting inside the gym for hours, just watching other coaches coach, being the observer that I am. Mm-hmm. Continue moving on with that, it led me into understanding biofeedback markers, resting heart rate, HRV, what sleep can do for us, all these things and all this data that we can pull from it. And I started utilizing that in a manner of help healing the human being. Mm-hmm. As that continued to happen from an individualization standpoint, me working with an athlete one-on-one, and you're actually one of the athletes under GB3 Athletics who have accomplished amazing things. What it allowed me to understand then was, okay, cool. This way of group programming or mass coaching is great, but to make the group or the team strong, you have to focus on the individual. That's just it. So it was something that like kind of sparked my interest, being like, okay, cool. Biofeedback markers. We're learning how to look at the brain. I'm missing something. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what is that? What is it that I'm missing? And something that I heard earlier from your husband about you're always looking for like sharpening the next thing, or being like that you're at the tip of the spear, you're sharpening always. To do that, you have to put yourself in positions. I started going down the rabbit hole of blood work. Yeah. I hadn't done blood work probably for like 6 years since I got out of the Marine Corps. Did blood work for the first time. Test numbers were low. I remember sending it to you and showing to you that this was 2020. Yeah. And I automatically realized like, oh, if I don't get my blood work obviously checked, I'm not fully grasping what it is that's going on inside my body. Mm-hmm. Resting heart rate, HRV, sex drive, metabolic flexibility, you name it, all that stuff was great. But if that's not working and I'm doing all the things correctly, I think I am, there's something deeper there.
Yeah.
And this is where I started looking at the hormone aspect and understanding how that brings everything full circle, where we can now triangulate it all.
The source of performance.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we had to focus on the foundation of health and wellness first.
Yes.
Which, the way I look at it, and it's the tagline for GB3 Athletics today, is human first, everything second.
Yes.
Fast forward to 2020, 2021, 2022, working with you and understanding what you do as a PA and all the other accolades and experiences that you bring to the table for what you're doing today was big.
Yeah.
And I saw the value in that. And I was like, all right, there's more to hear. We've had these conversations for multiple years now.
Yes.
How are we going to do this? When is the right time to do it? You were working a full-time job, running your own practice.
Yes.
I was working for Soflete full-time, and it just wasn't the right time, but we started to get to know each other on a more personal level, more of a professional level, and we started having these conversations.
Yes.
Fast forward to 2023 now.
Yeah.
GB3 Athletics now is coming to the public. It's happening in a whole different manner than what it was when I first started it, and when I had to put it behind the curtain, when it was an individual coaching program company, but it was still mainly driven through the blog. I had multiple pathways of programs. We had all of these things on there. I had a PT working with me. I had some other coaches working underneath me. It was great. We were coming up with other companies that were doing it also. But going and working for Soflete, where I got to touch thousands of human beings through an app, emails, case studies, and where I got to apply my studies of going to school for sports psychology, meaning that the things that I was learning in my degree, I was applying to the people I was working with in that manner, not just through Soflete, but also through my individual coaching still, because it was private. So I was able to have athletes work with me individually, which allowed me to evolve and make Soflete programming that much better. But again, it was an app. It only wants to track biofeedback markers, all these other things. But again, going back to, there's something deeper. And this is where you come into play now. And this is what we're going to go ahead and introduce, is the collaboration of GB3 Athletics and Full Spectrum Medicine.
Full Spectrum Medicine. So full spectrum.
For this conversation, for us hanging out and doing this, this is honestly is your time to shine, to go ahead and share what it is you do and why you're doing it.
So I think it's important too for me to have a little bit of a backstory. So I've got nearly 15 years inpatient, outpatient experience. So inpatient, hospital setting, acute care, you're sick enough to end up needing to go to the hospital. So you get the hospitalist team. At my particular hospital, we had minimal critical care beds. So there were a lot of critical patients that were managed on the floor. So I saw the result of disease, dysfunction, neglect of health, and just basically an overall ignorance of our population. Information is out there. It's just super saturated. People don't know how to navigate through it, and they don't know how to apply it to them. They don't know how to individualize the information that they're consuming. So I saw that side of things. Before and after, kind of sandwiched with inpatient in between, I was in the clinics. In the clinics, especially family medicine and internal medicine, it's very education-based. It is supposed to be, your primary care is your gatekeeper. I'm the one who provided referrals. We did preventative health maintenance. We did education on advanced directives. We were supposed to be like the foundation.
Yeah.
And I've never felt on more shaky ground. Because it's yeah, exactly. It's a quantity over quality game. You know this. There isn't an incentive in healthcare to be a healthy person because you're not dependent on this thing. And I am not bastardizing my profession. I am more or less frustrated with the technocracy that exists. There is a money game in medicine.
Yeah. And
the sicker you are, the more revenue you generate. And now that we've seen post-COVID, there are lots of people who, are on one side of the aisle or the next. They're like completely pleased with the medical system and we saved, or, hey, you failed us so many times. You gave us incorrect information. You told us to do something, wasn't scientifically sound. So there's a generalized distrust in science. So I think now the reason that we're having this conversation now is because people hopefully realized during that time that their health is the only thing they have, and it's their body. This is a thing that you have autonomy over, and you get one of it for the entire life. So why not optimize? And when I say optimize, I truly mean like waking up every day and feeling good about the day.
Yeah.
Physically. And individualized medicine, and there are a ton of good allopathic physicians and providers out there who spend the time with their patients.
Yeah.
They are the most stretched thin and selfless people ever.
Yeah.
Because they get one thing back that the other physicians don't get, and that's results.
Yeah.
They get relationships and patient stories. So towards the end of the year, 2022, I said, I am done saying that my kids are the most important thing, and then I leave and come here for every, 8 hours a day. So I'm going to stay home with my kids, or I'm going to ask my husband, can I stay home with my kids? Nothing but support on his end. Don't even know why we're having a conversation. I leave, and I'm like, well, I still have this itch that needs to be scratched for medicine, true healing. So I created my own business, and it has been extremely difficult, significantly frustrating because I'm limited multimedia skills. But more than anything, I want to capture a population that I can help, that I can see results for, because I still want to get something out of this. Like,
Yeah.
I am putting myself into these programs, into these clients. I want to see them succeed.
Correct.
We would be silly to ignore that it makes us feel good too.
Yeah.
It makes us feel like better humans.
Yeah.
So I fast forward, here we are. And I think that us collaborating will be helpful for a couple of different types of clients. Number one, the person who has seen their health decline. They're in the middle age or towards the end of their life, and they're like, oh, I don't feel good. Every day I wake up, something hurts. I can't pick up my grandkids. So that's one subset of client. Another one is someone who is athletic, takes good care of themselves, but they do everything.
Yes.
They take every supplement. They listen to every Huberman podcast. They consume everything. So those people, we just need to hone in, educate, and then apply.
Yep.
Because those people are like one step into understanding the full shebang.
Sure.
And then the other one would be your elite athlete that needs to recover better. That's your female athletes that are in chronic low energy states. Those are hormone and very specific things. And so you're going to, hopefully the spectrum of this full spectrum of people will understand that what collaboratively we have to offer probably is, in my opinion, and I've done a lot of training and experimentation on myself as well, is it's about as comprehensive care as you can get, because you can't have one thing without the other. You can be jacked and have a massive deadlift and still have insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So being less dependent on the system, to have somebody that has the time, communicates with another professional team with one goal in mind, and optimizing the human performance. And life is a performance. And, if something ever happens and you end up in the medical system, another thing that I'm hyper focused on is helping people understand how to navigate it.
Yes.
There's a barrier to entry with language and the prices and understanding your insurance. I want to help people understand that as well.
Yeah. What I love about our collaboration, and I'm going to go ahead and start down at the fact of our values align quite well. The words that you use from the fact of individualization, we both want that.
Yes.
We want people to heal. We want people to educate themselves. We want them to learn. We want them to continue to take this ship or this F1 race car, right, and be able to be the Max Verstappens and the Sergio Perez's on the Red Bull team. If you watch F1 racing, you understand. F1 race car, it's a high-performing individual, high-performing car.
Yeah.
They both need to be in sync to perform at their highest state.
True.
What we're doing together now, what this collaboration is going to be, is we're going to be giving them the skill sets.
Yes.
And I think that's the cool value here, is we both understand that to live amongst our world, it takes having different tools and skill sets to apply in specific situations and environments to allow for us to succeed.
Exactly.
That could be a mom, a dad, that could be an ultra runner, that could be a tactical professional, it can be a combat athlete. could be a weightlifter, it could be anybody, the human.
Yes.
At the end of the day, needs to have the skill sets, needs to become a craftsman of their own body and mind and heart,
Yes.
soul, spirit, we can throw it all out there, to have this freedom, this waking up feeling good every morning.
Yes.
One thing I do like to share whenever we do talk about these kinds of things is the idea of the bank account, right? You have a savings account to where you can touch when you need to, but then when you're in a controlled setting, controlled environment, you're doing all the right things to go ahead and increase that savings account in your bank account. Well, as human beings, we have to be able to tolerate stress at a very high capacity because of the way the environment and society and culture is today. Stress does what to us?
Breaks us down.
It breaks us down over time.
Yeah.
And if we don't relieve that pressure to help recover, we start to see other issues happen. And one of those big things is exactly what you're talking about, is an internal dysfunction, disease, illness, acute or chronic, but acute usually leads to chronic because they lack the navigation or the education to apply exactly what you're talking about. How do I go ahead and take care of myself? When I'm in a low energy state, what should I be doing to get myself out of there from a nutritional standpoint, sleeping, hydration, all of those things, to where now we go ahead and just bring a full circle of affinity loop where they're just living a life to where when things do go awry, they have the ability and the capacity to handle it.
Yes. I think more than anything, we're the holders of a specific compass. And then the map is dependent on what the client, what you want to do. Like, hey, if you're going to have this massive objective, say in the mountains or on the bike, like your metabolic map to get there, your health map is going to be different than, that first set that we talked about that are just trying to move. So understanding the tools that are specific for you, you can be physically strong and metabolically brittle. Like these two things can coexist for a while, and then you start pulling out of that savings account.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. The toolbox comes with education, commitment on both parties. Like we have to be professionally committed to seeing this person become a better version of themselves. Correct. But we have to have the right people show up. You have to show up.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned with my sports psych degree is the fact of internal and external motivations and purpose and passion. And what I found is most people come to someone like me or you when they've already lost all faith and motivation and discipline in trying to fix themselves because, like you said, there's no one there. And again, we don't want to hold hands. That's not what we're saying.
No, please.
No, right? But we want to be able to be a northern star that we be like, hey, here's this direction to where you can apply these behaviors to help you get out of this situation. Yeah. Because you did X, Y, and Z. Well, this is now what we're doing. And from an internal, external motivator, when your life is on the line because you're ill, are you going to go ahead and stand up and fight? Or are you going to go ahead and sit down and just let it take over you? Yeah. And I think for me, from the world that I've come from, childhood, military, and today where I'm at, the word for me is I'm always going to fight no matter what. And I think that's the same thing in you and what you want to go ahead and give to the humans that we are going to be working with moving forward. Yeah. So what are these services that you are going to be able to provide as we collaborate together for the individuals and the humans that we are going to be touching on a daily basis?
So this will continue to be expansive and updating because I am back to being, medicine is constantly changing, so you're never not a student. But there are definitely some skills and some knowledge from the holistic and naturopathic world that I have to accumulate. So the services that I have right now are hormonally based, 2 of them, male and female. I'm a Dutch medicine test certified provider, which means that I can order and interpret the most comprehensive sex hormone test on the market. It includes cortisol levels. It's a dried urine test. And a lot of women, especially premenopausal, will have imbalances in the type of estrogen that they have and not a deficiency in estrogen. And in 15 years of practice, hardly, I had a patient bring me this test. And I'm like, what is this? You're not taught this because you're taught it's classic in medicine. You're told to replace a hormone. But in reality, what you sometimes need to do is just balance.
Yep.
So it will be, once again, individualized according to sex, age, and if it's a female, where they are in post, or estrogen dominant menopause. So those are the two hormonal services. The other one is just a general intake and like, hey, let's look at, but what am I doing inside? What is my blood sugar? What are my electrolytes look like? What does my kidney function look like? A lot of times when you're young and healthy and you have health insurance, you're like, yes, I'm going to go to the doctor and get a physical. And then your insurance pays for none of your blood work. And then what they do is, because you went through a modern medical system, is they are going to request ridiculous money from your insurance. Insurance doesn't pay because you haven't messed your deductible, or if they're not covered, and then you get the bill. Yeah. So lab tests can be reimbursed from insurance. We're completely functional with an electronic medical record system that communicates with their primary care or specialists. And the patients have what do you call it? It's like a web members only section of the portal. A portal.
Yeah, it's a portal. Okay.
So they have a patient portal where they can go and draw charts and information from. So a metabolic service, essentially, like, hey, what am I looking like inside? And that includes an assessment of like sleep, some nutrition stuff.
Cool.
There will be some things probably that patients are going to have, or clients are going to have, that just have multiple medical problems that might need specialized dietary advice. Yeah. Which I am not a dietitian. And then the other one is a recovery and peptide for performance. Okay. So started using peptides several years ago to help with a gut issue. Okay. Had fantastic results and some performance results, but those are very specific for certain types of things. There's also peptides for weight loss. Okay. So if we have clients that are like, hey, I'm post-menopause and I got 30 pounds that I need to get off, or it's somebody who has a massive amount of weight to lose before they start your program, like that's an ideal Correct. Patient for that.
Correct.
And so those are the services for right now.
For right now.
Yeah, for right now.
It's awesome, right? Like, cause where I look at you right now is you're in a position where you're building your own business to focus on individualization of medicine and healing. I'm in a business where it's individualization for performance. Individuals come to me so they can reach peak performance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But at the end of the day, though, I need to make sure that they're well and they're healing. Yes. To handle the load in which they're being put through to peak at their true potential. Yeah. It is a beautiful experience. Mm-hmm. We've been kind of doing it together slowly behind the curtains. Yeah. And we're seeing some things come about it. The synergy of it is actually very smooth and efficient. There's no resistance to it, right? And when you go ahead and share this with another person or with a client or an athlete or a patient, you're like, hey, look, I can offer you something a little bit more than just this program, HRV, resting heart rate, a systematic approach to programming, how you want to look at it. No, we now can go ahead and tie in more of a metabolic, or not metabolic, but a medicine approach, individualization, to where they know now, hey, my resting heart rate's increasing for some reason. I'm feeling this way. Oh my God. Oh, I'm getting sick. Mm-hmm. Right. I saw that a lot during the COVID period. Yeah. I had athletes tracking heart rate variability and resting heart rate, as well as training load monitoring system. Mm-hmm. And I was able to go and, when I'm programming certain days, I use a high, low, medium method, or low, high, low, medium, high, however you want to use it. Look at it. And if the day is supposed to be low and they're perceiving it as a moderate or high day, that's automatically a switch in my brain going, what's going on? If I see it happen again the next day, all right, something really is going on. They didn't adjust load. They didn't do what they needed to do. Yeah. We need to go ahead and have a conversation about that. So it's just an automatic boom, boom, boom. Well, now we can go ahead and take it even deeper. Yeah. Right? Where an individual comes to us and, in the first initial consultation, they're talking about low energy, sleep is crap, nutrition isn't there, sex drive is gone, right? Well, okay, hey, guess what? Let's go get this taken care of. Mm-hmm. So before we start you on training, you go through this little small healing process
Yes.
to allow for your body to get ready for what's to come, right? Or for someone who graduates a selection process or gets done with a huge 100-mile race, or who gets done with a world championship fight weekend, or at a international, national, or local meet where they're peaking for it. Or if it's a mom or a dad who is just low energy and they're not able to play with their children.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, guess what we're going to be doing together? We're going to go ahead and focus on getting you to be able to play with your children,
Yeah.
and have that energy and honestly give light back to you.
You're triaging is what you're doing.
100%.
And it's frustrating to have the ability to triage and have nobody to send them to. So thanks for bringing me on for that. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I think that it's going to be vitally important for the athletes and clients to understand that, like, we communicate because of the total package of
Correct.
wellness and health. And in order for us to achieve athletic goals, like a human above all else, just like you said, like, this doesn't mean anything if you just shave 6 years off your life. Like, it doesn't matter. So, and there is a smart way, and there is a way to where you can protect your male hormones, sometimes female hormones, without going into this nebulous and super dangerous black market supplement, thermogenic, like anabolic world. Like, there are other things out there which I am interested in and have tried on myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an athlete, GB3 athlete, just like you said. I'm looking to optimize this human performance period in my life, but I'm not willing to shave off 5 years watching my great grandkids grow
Correct.
up, So I hope that one thing that we put in that toolbox is a sense of perspective. Everybody's young and dumb, like, we get it. But even now that I'm getting closer to half my life expectancy than I am before, like, sit down and write your goals. Like, do you want to be able to stand up from, a chair without using your hands? Do you want to be able to pick up a 12-pound grandchild up to your chest? Like, I sat down and wrote my century goals of, like, if I live to be 100, I want to be able to do this. You just work backwards. So, but important part of that is I can't get there if the thing that makes me perform is broken or I don't understand how it works. So that's why I'm super excited. This is the thing that I like about medicine, is because for years, all I've done is control disease. And I'll get on rants that'll put me 45 minutes behind taking care of patients about, like, foot-shaped shoes and wide toe boxes because, a podiatrist cut their foot off because cut their toe off because they had a bunion. Like, and it makes me lose my mind. But now I don't have to talk about that other stuff. So now, instead of a rant, it's a message.
It's action.
Yeah. Like, now I get to actually do this.
Correct. It's no longer sitting there and talking, right?
No.
Like, and that's the biggest piece I've ran into over the past 8 years. Again, I worked with Softlink, great company. We did some really great things. We changed thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
And still to this day, but now it's that exact thing. I want to go ahead and change lives on a very individual basis. And that's where we're at. Again, the collaboration for this is to provide action. We've been, I would like this is what I kind of said. I like to say this. My hands have been tied a little bit to be able to do George things as he's evolved over the decade. From when he first started GB3 Athletics in 2012 and 13. That's literally where we evolved. That's a decade. In a decade from now, I want to be able to bring even newer stuff at the tip of the spear of human performance. And again, being able to take the person who cannot get off the chair without their hands and actually hear them sit there and talk about, I can get off the chair, I can run around, I get to ride roller coasters, I get to go do all these cool things that give them life and joy. But it came, why? Because I've had to find my own way of, I want to walk my children down the aisle, I want to see them get married, I want to have my grandkids, I want to be there for my wife all the way until 100 years old. And luckily, we've been able to educate ourselves and have the curiosity to get us there.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, it's definitely been trial and error, but it is important to understand that the information is out there. Like, there's very few things about longevity and anti-aging science is pretty, it's capped. at what we know, and all of that information is available. But of taking it and applying it to you is where people just don't have quite the education and the ability to like stand back, look at the landscape through a lens of experience and go, okay, that doesn't apply, but this does. And it's not the same as cherry picking, studies from obscure journals to apply to your, to your lifestyle choices. So I think that having a team is going to increase accountability, and I think that understanding where we come from hopefully will help people to take it as passionately and seriously as we do, because I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I'm looking forward to the GB3 athletics and full spectrum medicine collaboration.
Oh, boo!